Hello everybody, my name is Walter, and today I want to show you how you can build my new 12 high slime and honey door with corners. Now if you're looking for the corresponding showcase or a world download, you can find those linked in the description. But let's get started. So this is a modular design with a control circuit to one side and following that just the same pattern of blocks repeated over and over until the very end. The pattern can go around corners. And besides of some size limitations I will come to a bit later, you are very free in how you go about this, and you can go left corners, right corners, you can switch that up. It's pretty much up to you. Now, having said that, let's actually talk about the sizes. So we have obviously the gap in the middle, which is 12 blocks high. And then below and above, we have the circuitry, which is 10 blocks high, counting the floor and the ceiling. So a total height of 32 blocks. The control circuitry is 3 blocks in width and 7 blocks in length total. Similarly, the modules are 2 blocks wide each and 7 blocks long. The height I already talked about a bit earlier. And with that, let's get to the required resources. So to build this, you're going to need obviously the main circuit or control circuitry. For that, you need building blocks, then 38 obsidian blocks or another immovable block, then 15 slime blocks and 2 redstone blocks, 28 redstone dust, 6 torches, 7 repeaters, 6 comparators, 4 observers, then 5 sticky pistons, a single node block, 4 hoppers, a lever, and then you're gonna need 4 stacks of items with a stack size of 16. So for example, eggs or snowballs or similar. Then for every module, so for every 2 blocks in width, I'm already adding the top and the bottom part. So this is for both together. You're gonna need 22 obsidian blocks, 18 slime blocks, 6 honey blocks, then 13 redstone wire, 2 comparators, 2 observers, 16 sticky pistons, and a single node block. And then for every time where you either make a corner or where you plan to switch between a left and a right corner, you need additionally 8 obsidian blocks, 11 redstone dust, and a node block. That's very important to realize. So for every corner or any other direction change, you're going to need that. And with that out of the way, let me quickly show you how to build this door here. Now the first step is actually marking out the future layout of your door with all of its corners. For that, a few things to keep in mind. So first of all, we start by marking the edges of the space where the blocks get moved through with an alternating pattern of obsidian block or immovable block and normal block. The side where we have the control circuitry will be this one here, and this is also where the opening and closing sequence propagates from. And here we start with the obsidian blocks. Corners can only be made when you have an obsidian block in the inner corner. On the outer corner, you can replace the corresponding obsidian block with a normal block, since there will not be slime or honey blocks near it. Subsequently, corners can only be an odd number of blocks apart, not an even number, which limits you a bit, but otherwise it would not work with the circuitry. The floor and the ceiling are obviously 12 blocks apart. And on the side with the control circuitry, we have this part of the door frame, which is just a 12 high column of obsidian blocks. I added another obsidian block at the top and the bottom, since it looked a bit strange looking through the slime and honey blocks and seeing this cut off edge there. But those are somewhat optional. Somewhat obvious, the top part should mirror the bottom part. And the last limitation to keep in mind is that when you have corners, you must be aware of the required spacing. The reason is, when you're looking from the edge, you have a short side of the modules, which needs 1 block of space to one side. And to the other side, you have the long side, where you need 6 blocks of space. And different modules must not overlap in those areas. So let's see here. For example, we start with a long side on this end here. And then we get to a left corner. The short side must be on the inside of a corner. The long side must be on the outside of the corner. So here, no issue. Then we make another left. And Also no issue. Theoretically, we could make the left already here. So if we make a left here, you could theoretically have this part of the corner go like this here. Again, those must not overlap, but you can have them right next to each other. The problem comes a bit later with this right corner here, which you will see in just a few seconds once I have undone this. So we have the left corner and then we have a right corner. For this, we need to switch which side is the inside or the long and which is the shorter side, which is not really an issue. But since this one here is now the longer side, we need to make sure that we don't overlap with the modules over here. And that limits us how close we can actually put those two corners beforehand. So you can't just look at one corner and go from there. You have to look over the entire sequence of corners and figure out whether everything is valid or not. So we make then our left corner, and then from there on we continue. And one thing to keep in mind, we can't just make a right corner and we can't just make another left corner until we are outside of this area here, because let's say I would try to make a left corner here, I would start to overlap there. So the earliest I could make a left corner would be somewhere here. So make sure that you figure out whether your entire setup is actually valid or not before you start with building the actual circuitry, or you will have to, well, undo a lot of stuff potentially. With the layout figured out, it's time for the circuitry. We'll start at the bottom with the control. For that, let's go below this pillar of obsidian blocks, and below the floor we need to go down 9 blocks. 6, 9, and then we can remove those 8 here. Then go diagonally up twice with normal blocks and then 4 times with obsidian blocks. Top everything except for the topmost block with redstone wire. Then we go to the bottom there and place 3 blocks in an L shape like so, with 2 comparators here, a third in the subtract mode there. Then above this corner here, we need an upside down sticky piston with a full block below it and a redstone cross on top. Then let's go and add a node block below this corner there, followed by a normal block with a repeater on one tick running into a block with a torch in front of it. Then diagonally to the torch, we need 2 lowered blocks with another third one around the corner, 3 redstone wire on top. Now grab your hopper and place 2 of them facing each other behind the comparators. Put a block on top of this one here with a torch on the side. Then redstone on top and make this into a dot. Then in between those 2 redstone, we need a block, then another block here with a 4-tick repeater on top running into a block on top of the dot. Block behind it, redstone dust on top, another block on top of the repeater. Then a 4-tick repeater running into this block. Now we need 2 observers powering downwards here and there. Then another 4-tick repeater here and some wire there. And if the block here would be expelled, just replace it in the correct position right below the piston there. Then place another block here, torch on the side of it. Then place a block hovering above the torch, followed by 2 slime blocks on top, and then a sticky piston down and a sticky piston up. This one here, by the way, will later on power the top part or trigger the top part. So we can for now place a lever here. And then last part, go to the outer hopper here and place in 2 stacks of stack size 16 items, so for example X. And the transfer should stop once 15 X have been transferred. And with that, the circuitry is done. Now it's time for the modules. The modules are somewhat simple. They start by placing a block here with a comparator. Then we have this staircase structure repeated. Don't forget the wire. And also don't forget the node block down here. Now grab a sticky piston, place it between the 2 node blocks. Then an observer powering upwards on top. Then another sticky piston diagonal to that, and following that another 4 in a row like so. Put slime blocks on top of the sticky pistons and above the observer there. Follow that with a sticky piston upwards. On top of that we need 6 slime blocks or honey blocks, it's up to you. And then normal blocks next to those. And that's already the first module done. Let's give this a little test run. And what we want to see is this thing completely extending. And once it's extended, we can depower this and we should see it retracting completely. And if that is working, it's time to build the other modules at the bottom. For that, simply repeat this pattern of modules here. And I will show you how this looks like and also what happens in the corners after a little cut. I will also already fill in the rest of the floor here. So as you can see above the slime blocks, you will need a row of obsidian blocks. The rest can be normal blocks. And here we go. So as you can see, I've filled in the rest of the modules. They are all just following this basic pattern of the piston setup and then the staircase structure. The only thing to keep in mind is when you make a corner, that you make the corner on the redstone dot there, or redstone cross there. And then you also add additionally one of those staircase structures so that the pistons are always sandwiched between two of those staircases. This is important or this door will not work. Similarly, when you make a direction change between left and right, or which is the inner and which is the outer side, you also need to make the sandwich structure. So you can see I have made a corner, one sandwich structure here, then one module, and then I switch which side the module is on. And here I also need to add one of those. But besides of that, you can see there are no real surprises. I always have the sandwich structure around the pistons, and then I follow just until the end. Always make sure you have obsidian blocks on top of where the slime blocks will be. And then at some point we reach the end, and then we can just end it with a wall. You can also make this just a block shorter by leaving out the normal blocks below, but then you will need obsidian blocks or another immovable block there, obviously. And once you have done all of that, you can obviously test it. You might want to just test it piecewise if something goes wrong, but if everything works, then it's fine. And if you want to just test part of it, this is easily done by just blocking the movement of one module, because all modules after that module will simply not move. You can see I've blocked this module here, and subsequently only the first two modules will actually be triggered, or will actually be able to move. And there we go. And with that, it's time to start talking about the top part. Now for the top, let's go and start actually down here, right next to where we have the lever. On top of the sticky piston, pile some slime blocks until you are just below the ceiling, and then top that with a redstone block. Next, put obsidian blocks around the redstone block, and then we need a staircase of 3 normal blocks going diagonally up from this one there. Then add another 2 normal blocks here and the rest one there. Put down redstone wire on those 4 blocks here and a 2-tick repeater and a 4-tick repeater following that. Then we need observers on top of the 4-tick repeater and the wire. Put a block on this one here, then a block down there and a raised block here. Put down 2 redstone wire. Then we need a sticky piston here with a slime block hovering above it with a full block on top. Then to the front and the right of the slime block we need obsidian blocks. Then a normal block in this corner. Put 2 converters here, insert in the subtract mode there. Now let's go and add a torch down here. Block on top, torch on top, block on top and behind that. Redstone wire here. Then a block there, a 4-tick repeater in this direction, and this runs into a full block there with a torch on the side of it. Then we need 2 hoppers facing each other behind the comparators. Then this comparator here runs into a full block. Behind that, we need a lowered block of redstone cross on top. Then we go down a layer, place 2 blocks in a row, and then we go down 4 times diagonally with obsidian blocks. Put down redstone wire on top of all these blocks here. Then grab a sticky piston, place it here, followed by a slime block in front of it and a redstone block. Then a block diagonal to that. Redstone wire on top like so, and this runs into a full block right there. Then place 2 stacks of eggs inside of this hopper here, and the transfer should stop once more when 15 eggs have been transferred, as you can see right there. And with that, the circuitry is pretty much done. Now it's time for the modules. Once more, this is a very simple repeating pattern. So let's start with a block lower diagonally from this block at the back there, which should be right above the gap where the blocks move through. Put in a comparator. This runs into a full block, and now we repeat basically this pattern here without the sticky piston and the blocks in front of it. So we have the raised block there, then the 2 lowered blocks, then we go down diagonally 4 times. Don't forget the wire. Also not at the back there, make sure this is a cross shape. And then it's time for some more pistons. We start with a piston right between the raised blocks there, with an observer powering downwards this time. Then diagonal to that, between the 2 last normal blocks there, we start with a sticky piston and then add another 4 for a total of 5 there. Put slime blocks below them and 1 further below the observer there. Follow that with a sticky piston facing downwards, and this time we need honey blocks. If you have used honey blocks down there, you would need slime blocks. So either the top or the bottom you need honey and slime blocks on the other. You can even alternate between top and bottom. This is up to you how you want to do this. But you can't have slime blocks at both or honey blocks at both modules, top and bottom, or they will stick together when the door is closed. And with that, we are done with this module here, which means now it's time to once more just copy those 2 modules or slices of the module over and over, and once more I will show you how this looks like when I have done all of that and show you how the corners and similar look like. And here we go. So as you can see, I just repeated this pattern of modules over and over all the way until the end. The only real interesting part happens when I get to the corners, where I should have the corner on this redstone cross here. And when I go around the corner, I add 1 more staircase structure at the beginning, so that the pistons are always sandwiched from both sides by those staircase structures. This is very important, or the door will break at this point. Similarly, when I go from a left to a right corner, I will have to switch the side. Again, this is from the corner, the additional staircase. Now I switch the side, and I once more need to add 1 more staircase structure. Also, don't forget the block up here to cut off that wire there. But besides of that, it's just the same pattern. In this case, now obviously somewhat mirrored, but same pattern continued on until the very end. And that's pretty much all to talk about here. Last part, it was getting a bit dark, so I had added some lighting once I had the ceiling in. And you might also want to add some kind of continuation of the wall here. You can leave it as a 1 white wall, or you can, if you want, add another few blocks in front, so you can't really see when the pistons extend, and maybe get through here in some way and somehow hit the lever potentially. Which could be a bit of a security risk, but slime blocks can be punched out without any issue anyway, so yeah, this is just something to nucleize or maybe keep some mobs out of your base. But anyway, with that, we have reached the end of this tutorial for this 12 high slime and honey door with corners. I hope you enjoyed it, and well, see ya.